Hello guys. This is Real Recaps. In this video, I will talk about a 2020 American science fiction romantic comedy film, Palm Springs. Before we start, I hope you guys will like and subscribe to the channel. On November 9th, in the Palm Springs desert, an earthquake splits the earth apart as a goat watches on. Niles awakens in his hotel room with his girlfriend, Misty, where they're in town for the wedding of Misty's best friend, Tala, and Abe. Misty and Niles have an awkward intercourse, and she leaves before it's done. Niles seems to be dead inside and tells Misty to murder him, to which she thinks it's just a bad joke. Afterwards, Niles lays on a pool raft, wearing a Hawaiian shirt and shorts, drinking beer, and talks briefly with groomsman, Jerry. At the wedding, Niles shows up wearing the same outfit as Misty, giving a speech. When the father of the bride, Howard, asks Tala's sister, Sarah, to give a speech, she panics since she has nothing prepared, so Niles steps in and delivers a perfect wedding speech. Afterwards, a creepy guy named Randy approaches Sarah to dance with him, but she declines and Niles dances over towards her. Niles flirts with Sarah, who wonders what Misty would think about this, so Niles shows her that Misty is having an affair with someone in the window of their room. They start to bond, as she says her family is embarrassed of her and believes she is a drunken mess. They eventually make out in the desert, and as they begin to undress each other, Niles' arm is shot by an arrow. He starts to flee, as a man named Roy, pursuing him, and shoots another arrow into his leg as Sarah screams in horror. Eventually, Niles arrives at a glowing cave and starts dragging himself into it. Sarah catches up to him, and he shouts at her not to follow him, before suddenly being sucked into the vortex. Niles wakes up on November 9th again, as he's been in a time loop, reliving the same day, repeatedly. He goes about his business, and is laying in the pool, before Sarah runs out, demanding answers. In a flashback, Sarah can be seen following Niles into the cave, and eventually getting sucked into the vortex herself. She wakes up on the day of the wedding. Confused and bewildered, Howard finds her behavior strange. When Sarah sees Niles, she runs out to the pool and dives in to confront Niles. When Tala rushes outside to see what happened, she slips and hits her face into the pavement, losing her front teeth in the process. The bridal party begins trying to comfort her, as she sobs hysterically. Sarah goes to Niles to talk about what's happening to them, and learns that she is in time loop. She demands to be taken out to the cave, which isn't there, until an earthquake opens it up, which Niles claims occurs at the same time, every day. Niles warns her that the day is just going to restart again. She goes into the cave, and once more wakes up on the day of the wedding. She panics and drives all the way back to Austin, but again wakes up the day of the wedding. She meets Niles, and they go for a drive, where he says that he's been in time loop for so long that he's given up and that nothing matters anymore. He says he's killed himself multiple times, only for the day to reset again as Sarah drives into an oncoming truck. They wake up on the day of the wedding and go to a nearby bar where Darla is, and Niles challenges her to a game of darts that he already mastered and ends up winning. The darts remind Sarah of the arrows, and she inquires about Roy. Niles explains that Roy is a guest at the wedding who had driven from Irvine. In a flashback, Roy meets Niles at the wedding, and they become close. They steal drugs from the wedding officiants and party hard all night, until they're very messed up. They hang out at the desert, and when Roy remarks that he wishes this day will last forever, Niles takes Rue to the cave and tells him his ancestors are in there before Roy goes inside. At last minute, Niles realizes what he's doing and attempts to stop him, but it is too late. Niles tells Sarah that Roy would occasionally travels from Irvine to punish him by torturing and killing him. Sarah advises Niles to confront him, but Niles doesn't see the need to do that. They have lunch, and Sarah asks him if he had intercourse with different people at the wedding. He tells her that he had flings with the wedding bartender, Darla, and Jerry. He admits he did try with Tala, but never been successful. Finally, he tells Sarah about doing it with Howard. However, it turns out he's just joking. She asks if they've ever did it, and he denies it. Sarah comes up with a theory that they're trapped in the loop as punishment, and that the only way out is to be selfless and earn it. During the next wedding, Sarah interrupts the ceremony and whispers something in Tala's ear, where she appears to be devastated as earthquake happens again. When Niles asks Sarah about it, she refuses to tell him. However, Sarah wakes up again on the day of the wedding. It didn't work, so Niles takes her to a nearby property that he refers as his safe house because the owners aren't home that day to hang out. A montage is shown of the many days in the time loop, where they spend time together and do crazy things. They steal and crash a plane, perform a big choreographed dance number in a bar, trick Randy into walking in on Misty having an affair, plant a bomb in the wedding cake before throwing it away, and Sarah throws a millionth birthday party for Niles in the bar. One night, Niles and Sarah camp out in the desert. Niles says the next moment is all that matters in the time loop, comparing it to chocolate. Sarah confesses she used to be married, and it didn't work out. When she asks Niles about his past, he can't recall any of it since he's been trapped in a time loop for too long. They toast to pretending they don't care while under the influence of mushrooms, where they see dinosaurs in the desert. Sarah and Niles finally have their moment in their camping tent. Sarah wakes up again in the same morning, and it is revealed that she had slept with Abe the night before the wedding, and is ashamed of herself. When Niles tries to talk to her about them sleeping together, she responds that nothing matters. They get pulled over by a police officer, who turns out to be Roy. Sarah steals the cop's car and crushes Roy with it, and acts wild and gleeful. Niles is upset with her and says other people's pain matters. They get into a massive argument where Sarah blames Niles for being in the situation, but he rebuts her by pointing out that he warned her not to go into the cave. She says she never should have banged him, and he confesses they've banged 1,000 times. Sarah is shocked to learn the truth, and is determined to get out of the time loop, and runs in front of an incoming truck. Over the next days in the time loop, Niles search everywhere for Sarah, but can't find her. Eventually, when the groomsmen are doing drugs in Abe's bedroom, Niles recognizes the smell of Sarah's hair product on his pillow, and realizes what happened. He attends the wedding, and exposes Abe for having an affair with Sarah by giving the pillow to Tala as a proof. He then yells at everyone for treating Sarah terribly, before being attacked by Abe, and they engage in a fist fight that ends with Niles using a fork to stab Abe in the face. Later, Niles sits with Jerry and cries that he misses Sarah, and confesses that he loves her. Niles later visits Roy in Irvine, and asks Rue to torture him again. He sees his wife and 2 kids, and seemingly happy home, contrary to when he met Roy the first time, where he describes marriage as a bottomless pit of sorrow, and Roy explains that priorities change. He admits that he had a lot of anger towards Niles since he will never see his children grow up. However, when Sarah crushed him, he realized what he was putting Miles through, and decided to stop torturing him. He advises Miles to find his own Irvine, or happy place. Roy also says it's probably best if they don't see each other anymore, so Niles requests for Rue to kill him one more time, which he does. In a flashback, after Sarah got hit by the bus, she woke up and confronted Abe about what happened between them. He begins crying and says he feels awful. In the next following day, Sarah starts spending time studying and researching about quantum physics and general relativity. Eventually, she did an experiment by taking a goat and covers it with explosives and sends it into the cave, detonating it once it's inside. When Niles awakens, he finds Sarah at his bedside. He apologizes for lying to her, and she thanks him, then explains she thinks she found a way out of the loop. She believes by blowing themselves the moment the cave sucks them in, they'll leave the time loop, as the goat wasn't there the following day, like it usually was. However, she is unsure if they will wake up the next day, or in 20 years, or they will end up dead. Niles is afraid to leave, so he confesses his love towards her, and she wonders if he would still choose her if they weren't trapped together inside the loop. He tells her he knows about Abe and doesn't care about that, but she insists she can't keep waking up on Abe's bed. She says she's leaving and asks him to come with her, but he declines and asks her to stay with him. She bids her farewell and leaves. Niles later breaks up with Misty. At the final wedding, Sarah delivers a genuinely emotional speech and warns Abe not to mess things up. Niles is depressed and is seen drinking at the bar, knowing Sarah will be gone. He talks to Darla, saying he doesn't know how to live, and she points out to him that everyone has the same problem. He realizes what he needs to do and steals a truck and rushes to meet Sarah. He catches up to her just before she is about to enter the cave and delivers a long speech declaring that she's his favorite person he has ever met, and he would rather die with her than live in the world without her. When she asks, what if they grow tired of each other, he responds that they already are. They go inside the cave, and Sarah confesses that she loves Niles too, as they kiss. Just before they are sucked in, Sarah sets the explosives off. The scene moves to the safe house, where Niles and Sarah are seen floating in the pool. Niles says that next they'll have to go get his dog, who is staying with neighbors. Sarah says she is unaware that he had a dog, just as the owner of the house shows up and questions them what they're doing in their pool. Niles realizes that they must have returned from their vacation on November 10th. In a mid-credits scene, Roy arrives at the wedding and informs Niles that he received Sarah's message about the crazy theory and wonders whether it actually works. When Niles has no idea who he is, Rue realizes that the plan works and happily orders a lot of drinks. The end. Thanks for watching.